Islamic Studies program is a 5-year program, and we are aware that you're only studying on Sundays. There's an advantage and a disadvantage. The advantage is that you don't have to get your university degree or your day job. Yeah, you can carry on paying your rent. Yeah, that's the advantage. The disadvantage is that you only get 1 day of class. So we've tried to work out how can, even though we're only giving you 1 day of class, how can we try and make you benefit as much as you can so that you progress to the point where you should progress. And the way we've designed the program is that essentially what we want the students to do is we want them, for every hour of class that they have, they're willing to do at least 1 hour of work at home. Because the way we see this, I mean, you know, there's 5 years. Now, we know Ustaz Sabih and his team are doing a really good job with Arabic, but we know that for the students, for those concepts relating to grammar to really sink in, they have to carry on practicing them and practicing them. So in the first year, for example, there's a very strong emphasis on students doing grammatical analysis of the text that they're studying. We're trying to make sure that the texts are very short in the first year. Therefore, you know, we're not going to give you a 100-page book and say, do a textual analysis of this 100-page book. We're going to give you a short text so that you can do, so that when you go into class, you're ready. You've read your 2 paragraphs, you've done i'rab of it, you've worked out what all the letters, what all the words mean, and then when you come into class, you know, you've even kind of like worked out the basic concepts. But when you come into class, what's the teacher going to do? The teacher's going to, those things that you struggled with, Ustad, I didn't understand what this thing actually meant. This thing, yeah, this i'rab seems like this, but I didn't quite make sense to me. Then that's when the teacher in class, he will simplify those things for you. Yeah. So what happens is that in that first year, you're learning the ulum, you're beginning to study ulum al-hadith, you're beginning to study usul al-fiqh, you're revising your grammar because you'll be doing a text on grammar. Yeah. You'll be doing i'rab of the Quran, of Juz' Amma. Yeah. And what happens is that by you doing this, you're reinforcing everything that you've learned in the year before, but at the same time, you're acquiring new knowledge. Yeah? So one of the reasons why I'm quite insistent that they should do i'rab of Juz' Amma, because if you can do i'rab of Juz' Amma, you can do i'rab of almost anywhere in the Quran, right? Because it's the most difficult part. So that's the idea. Then in the second year, right, we're not going to need you to work so hard on your i'rab, because you should be able to kind of like more or less wing it. Yeah, you're so comfortable with it. You've been doing it for a whole year across a number of different topics. Should be relatively easy for you to do now. Now what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and make you become familiar with the literature and the different sciences. So for example, you're studying ulum al-hadith and you might be studying Nuzhat al-Nadhr. We won't just say to you, oh, just go and read the 5 pages of Nuzhat al-Nadhr. Go and read the 5 pages of Nuzhat al-Nadhr. Read another 3 pages from Ibn Salah. The following week you might read another 4 pages from Sharh Alfiyyat al-Iraqi. So what happens is by the end of the course, you're not only familiar with the knowledge and the discipline, but you know which are the main books in this topic. You've had a look here, you've had a look there, you've got a taste for these books. Now, when you finish studying, you'll be like, oh, you know what? I want to look up this issue, you know, that I didn't quite understand, but oh, I know which are the books that I can go to. And you have confidence going to those books because you've actually already looked in them before. You've actually read parts of them before. So that's the idea that we'll be doing throughout the 5 years. Making you become familiar with the vast body of literature for each science. From the beginning, there's a strong emphasis in Quran and Hadith. So in the first year, the idea is that we'll do a strong, basically fundamentally linguistic analysis of the Quran. In the second year, you're looking at a more thematic type commentary. In the third year, there's an idea that what you will be doing is looking more at, in terms of, shall we say, like the eloquence of the Quran and how that feeds into the meanings of the Quran. And then after that, you will be doing Kashaf, which is one of the most important commentaries of the Quran with Shaykh Akram, inshallah. In terms of Hadith, we begin with Shaykh Akram's Ihkam. So Ihkam is a collection of 200 Hadith, which is the Hadith that Shaykh Akram feels are the most important for the issues of fiqh. Yeah, and it's a very nice, simple book. It's only 200 Hadith, so you cover about 100 Hadith in the first year and about another 100 in the second year. So you become familiar with a significant number of important hadith. What you do in the following years is you become familiar with the different books of hadith. So you will read sections from Muslim, you will read sections from Abu Dawood, An-Nasa'i, Ibn Majah, etc., etc. By the time you finish, yeah, you will be saying, okay, I know what An-Nasi is about. I know Musnad al-Humaydi. Oh, Musnad al-Humaydi is mainly Humaydi narrated from Ibn Uyaynah. I didn't know that before. Oh, Imam Ahmed, when he arranges his Musnad, he structures it in this particular way. So you have become familiar with all these types of things because you'll have studied them. And then in the 4th and the 5th year, then you go to Sheikh Akram, and you're going to study Bukhari and Tirmidhi. And then all the theoretical stuff that you studied in Ulum al-Hadith, this is when now you get to apply it. You're there in class and you see how Sheikh Akram is applying it when he's doing this analysis, and that's what you're learning. In terms of, grammar and language, there's a focus on grammar, there's a focus on balagha, and there's a focus, we could say, on applied balagha in the Quran. So in other words, how does the Quran express itself? Yeah, what's the eloquence of the Quran? And what I was saying before, it's how, how does the eloquence of the Quran feed into the way we understand the Quran? And also, sorry, going back to the Quran, the other thing is that we want you to become familiar with the tafsir tradition. Which are the main tafsirs? What are their strengths? What are their specialities? What's the speciality of At-Tabari? What's significant about Zamakhshari, like this? So that then when you come to study with Sheikh Akram, you say, oh, I know what Zamakhshari is. Yeah, it's not just, I heard the name. You actually know what Zamakhshari is. You know what his kashaf is, right? So the idea is that we're trying to structure the course very much in a way that I think that I can summarize it in, I think 3 topics, 3 areas. I'm going to have to look up the second one. The first one is that you're comfortable with Arabic. You can read and write comfortably. The second one is that in the major Islamic science, you have a solid grounding. You're not an expert, but you have a solid grounding. Yeah? And the third one is that you're familiar with the tradition. Now, when we say familiar with the tradition, it doesn't mean that you're unquestioning, you treat the tradition as something sacred that cannot be questioned. No, you have a respectful, but at the same time critical approach to the tradition.